Hi, welcome to Prem Sports Rants with yours truly. So, there isn't much football happening right now, but thank goodness to the whole initiative of Project Restart, in which we will soon hopefully have the Premiership recommencing in June. We've had players today of Monday of returning to England. So Chelsea have inquired all their internationally based players to return, and if it's all going to be under safe conditions and if the pandemic dies down, then we all need it because the football has such a powerful aura, I should say, a powerful aura in order to help us forget about all this doom and gloom that's happening around the world as of this moment. So I'm here for it. Brilliant. And I think that's not much all we can say about it, because at the end of the day, things need to be determined, and such as league positions, and we've discussed this numerous amount of times, whether on this podcast or on the previous podcasts that I was associated with. So I think we can talk about football transfers briefly. As we all know, Newcastle are on the brink of being taken over by a consortium which includes the Saudi prince, who has a rich value of £230 billion, which is, oh my goodness, it puts QSI of PSG and Abu Dhabi prince, it make them look like me and you, all of us guys in this pandemic. Like, we're not billionaires, and that guy is just, whoa. But still, Newcastle would still have to follow through the financial fair play regulations, and there are so many, like when Man City got taken over by the Abu Dhabi consortium, people were wondering what would Newcastle be able to get. And even though there are financial restrictions, not only by the FFP, but also due to the pandemic, there's still many possibilities that Newcastle can approach. One of those is to go for a lot of freebie transfers. And that includes, ironically, just some of the guys I just mentioned, Chelsea-based players. So Willian, he was in Brazil. Pedro, he was in Spain. They're going to be out of contract by the end of the season, whenever that actually happens, because contracts now may be extended in order to facilitate the end of the season. So I personally suggest that if Newcastle wants to save some money and they need attacking flair, you can spend on some major signings like Coutinho, but then you can get some freebies like Cavani, Pedro, and Willian. And then you can go for a few more midfielders, because let's face it, although their defence is really strong for a mid-table club, their aspirations wants to go a lot higher. So therefore they would need to consider even signings like Koulibaly, although apparently he's going to be priced at 100 million. Anyway, I don't want to do a long podcast today, so I think that's all I'm going to say on that matter. And just this also about Newcastle. Thank goodness for Project Restart, again I should say, because last week when I did the first podcast, it was announced shortly after that Ligue 1, Ligue 1 and Ligue 2, however you mention it, they have frozen the league, and that's final, and the French football and all the French sports, including Le Tour de France, will resume in September. So that had some implications on what people thought could happen in the Premier League. And it's interesting because it's been rumoured today that Saliba, a defender that Arsenal had loaned back to Saint Etienne, might return and be able to play for Arsenal for the rest of the season, which is interesting because that opens the doors for other signings to return. Like if Serie A does decide to not to recommence, then they might bring Sanchez back to Man United. But let's hope Serie A resumes. Now, I think just because we haven't got that much time left, because I want to do a short podcast, we can talk about wrestling. As I said previously, Smackdown is without any doubt a lot better than Raw. One of the guests I had in the other podcast and who will feature in a future episode, Artif, he just said that he just watched one TikTok of WWE and it was so mesmerizing compared to watching the 3 hours of Raw. He saw a scene of Daniel Bryan talking up about the upcoming Money in the Bank pay-per-view that's happening this Sunday, in which Daniel Bryan, along with other participants, will be going up the building of WWE headquarters in order then to arrive at the ring, where there will be a ladder and the briefcase on top. And Daniel Bryan hilariously questioned what could be in Vince McMahon's office, whether he actually collects dinosaur bones. Smackdown itself was a brilliant show. Although it ended a bit abrupt, the Dolph Ziggler versus Otis match, found that quite interesting. We had an interesting tag team match there as well, which New Day actually lost, and that has led to a four-way tag team match happening at Money in the Bank as well. And I believe that SmackDown is continuing to deliver in every possible way. That's not even ignoring the fact that Baron Corbin versus Daniel Bryan was great. And I didn't talk about NXT as well. Drake Maverick, unfortunately, he had his last match, I believe, because he was released, but NXT did their previous tapings before they released, and he lost his match against a certain guy from New York. And Charlotte Flair was really good in her match as well. And Keith Lee against Damian Priest, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think even NXT looks better than Raw, and Raw desperately needs to even consider what matches they put on the main event, because Humberto Carrillo versus Murphy should be on Raw, because there's too many unknowns on Raw, and it's not really good at all. I even would put Dexter, who fought his opponent, who features on Raw, on Raw instead of NXT, because Dexter's a great wrestler from his time in NXT, from his time in TNA. So I would like to say thank you for watching this short podcast. With the UFC 249 pay-per-view coming up on Saturday, I'm hopefully going to have some guests to come. Sahel, who was part of the other podcast beforehand, and we're going to have more topics to talk about, wrestling related and football related. God bless, stay safe, and I'll see you shortly. I'm going to read some Bret Hart now. Take care.